Most enterprises right now are watching their AI pilots fail. They have the models, they have the data, they have smart teams. But when it's time to move to production, things start to fall apart. The problem is in the AI itself. It's the gap between the data science team building these models and the business teams that are trying to actually run them. One side is talking Python and probabilities, the other side is dealing with SLAs, compliance, and there is no one to bridge that gap. That's exactly what Marlabs is trying to solve with Agility AI. To talk about why so many AI projects are failing and what is actually going to help them move from prototype to production, we have with us Scott Morgan, EVP of Data and AI at Marlabs. Scott, it's great to have you on the show.
Likewise. Thanks for having me, Swamo.
This is the first time you and I are talking, so I would love to know a bit about the company. Talk a bit about Marlabs. What do you folks do?
Yeah, absolutely. So Marlabs is a full life cycle data and analytics and AI consultancy. We've been in business for almost 30 years at this point. We serve several Fortune 1000 clients. We have 6 service lines that we go to market with from a data perspective. So we focus a lot on data management, data governance, data strategy, as well as architecture and engineering, data architecture and engineering, data visualization, and then obviously AI and ML along with intelligent automation. So, we typically try to help clients think very holistically about their data landscape. So a lot of times I know we're going to talk a little bit about AI today. So I know a lot of times when we talk to clients about AI, a lot of those conversations tend to maybe go a little bit backwards into data or go a little forwards into the data space as well. So that's a little bit about Marlabs and who we are.
Folks like you are at the center of the AI revolution that we are seeing with Agentic AI. But there is a divide. Some organizations are highly successful with AI, while others are struggling with failed pilots and proof of concept. The AI is same, but somehow there is this divide. Why do you think there is such a gap between organizations' success and failure?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great question. And we see the exact same thing with a number of our clients. And there are folks that are doing this really well. And there are folks that are struggling to get value or get return out of the AI initiatives that they have. And so for me, it really comes down to a couple of things. I think when you start to talk about the hype versus the reality is where I would start. And, so there's obviously been a lot of hype about AI for the last, 12 to 24 months. And there's tremendous pressure from executives, from boards, to generate ROI. That is somewhat disconnected with the struggle on the ground to actually deliver that or obtain that ROI from some of the solutions that are being implemented. And so when it comes down to it, technology is not really the problem here, right? The AI tech that exists out there is outstanding. It's extremely impressive, and it only gets better, exponentially better by the day. New models come out every day, and they leapfrog the last best one that you didn't think could be any better. We've all seen or most of us have probably seen the report from MIT that came out last year that said 95% of AI pilots fail to produce returns or fail to produce value. And again, I don't think that's a technology problem. It's a business problem. We lack the organizational maturity and the strategic discipline to really implement and execute those. So when you talk about, why are some doing it well, why are some not, that divide is real and it exists. And it's because, there's a couple things. It's one, we talk to a lot of clients about kind of these 4 key pillars. And first is aligning with, your core business outcomes, and making sure that AI in your organization is a top-down mandate. And you got to focus on the right things. You got to focus on the high value workflows, the things around margin expansion, customer retention, speed to market, et cetera. But it's got to be that top-down mandate, where you're going to try to get value. Next is really around being able to build a data ready foundation. So the old adage still exists, kind of garbage in, garbage out. You're not going to do AI well if you still have bad data quality problems. And so you'll see, again, most studies that I've read indicate that a lot of the problems or a lot of the failure points in these initiatives are around data quality and data governance. And so now more than ever, data quality is really critical and really important. And then next, I think it's about operationalizing AI across the enterprise, and folks that are kind of stuck in that pilot purgatory, haven't quite got to that point where they're really operationalizing it. And the folks that are being successful, or the organizations that we see that are successful, have a mature governance structure in place, whether it's a COE or whatever it is. There's some type of mature centralized function that's governing all of the important things around standardizing the infrastructures, the tech platforms, policies, procedures, training support, approving what initiatives or use cases actually get implemented. And then last but certainly not least, just the organizational readiness around change management and AI literacy. Again, we've got to remember that we still have to train people on how to use AI and use the things that we've put in place for them to really implement.
Can you also talk about what's driving the shift from AI experimentation to production deployment in enterprises right now? I mean, AI has been around for a while. It's about time that things start moving into successful production phase.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned earlier, you see a lot of companies or organizations that are kind of stuck in that pilot purgatory. Now we are starting to see a shift. I think organizations are starting to recognize some of the things that we've all known for a while. If you think about an entire AI implementation, roughly 30 to 40% of that is going to be just AI engineering. But all the other components still exist in those implementations or those projects. You still have architecture, you still have design, you still have infrastructure, you've got validation, testing, you've got to put the thing into production, you've got to know how to support it and maintain it from a long-term perspective. And so when a lot of these AI POCs that were happening, especially, the last 12 months or so or beyond that, we're really just focused on kind of the AI technology part. And we neglected those other components. So as we see, organizations start to implement these AI initiatives that are more governed, that have more process and more organizational maturity and strategic discipline to implement them, they're making their way to production now. So we've got a number of clients that really have focused, and done a great job of putting good AI governance in place and allowing their organizations to really get some value out of a lot of good both generative and agentic AI.
Can you walk us through how Agility AI addresses the gap between data science teams and business operations?
Yeah, sure. No, that's a great question. So Agility AI is a framework that we developed that really focuses on three core things that help accelerate time to value for AI. And a lot of these are things that, or components that I've already hit on in the discussion, but first and foremost is around AI strategy. And so really being able to ensure that you are focused on the right use cases, that you're getting the right use cases approved and the things that are going to put value in place. That you've got some centralization in terms of, what's the infrastructure, what's the tech stack that you're going to be using to deploy these solutions across the enterprise. The next component of Agility AI are these, essentially we've built a catalog of pre-built technical and industry-based accelerators. So that right now we have a little over 100 different agentic accelerators that we take to our clients. Some are purely technical and some are more business focused or industry focused. So for example, we've built a Databricks migration agentic accelerator that uses 8 or 9 different agents to really execute a migration from some other data platform over to Databricks. And we're seeing, 50 to 60% reductions in time and effort and cost to do those things through the use of those accelerators. Other examples might be, within the banking and financial services industry, or more specifically within lending, and creating a series of agentic accelerators that focus on, things like maybe eligibility prediction or scoring, dynamic pricing or dynamic offers, as they engage with the different systems, automated verification of incomes, trigger-based outreach from a sales and marketing perspective. So there's probably 15 or 20 that we've got right within the lending, kind of the borrower experience lifecycle that we've developed as well. So we do the same thing within different industries. So healthcare providers or HCPs and patient engagement from a life sciences perspective. So those are that kind of catalog that's really the crux of Agility AI that we use to deliver solutions to clients. And then lastly, kind of the third leg of all of this, and probably the most important, is the governance model that we deploy deploy and the governance model that is associated with the framework. And that's really about emphasizing the standardization, the security, data integrity, operational control that's necessary to allow you to operationalize AI across the enterprise. Because again, that's always the big struggle right now as we work with clients and we see what's going on. It's that ability to operationalize it consistently across the enterprise and not do it in this kind of siloed fashion that we sometimes see.
What real world challenges do enterprises face when they are trying to scale AI beyond pilot projects?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I would start with kind of the technology landscape in general. There's a lot of fragmented tools, and there are any number of point solutions from an AI perspective that are out there in the marketplace. And there's an AI point solution for almost every business process at this point. And there's a lot of competing tech that can create bottlenecks and a lot of tech debt as well. So that leads to kind of the second point, which is I'm seeing a lot of kind of shadow AI. We used to have shadow IT was a common term in the industry, right? But we're seeing a lot more shadow AI, which indicates there's a lack of clear ownership for AI within these enterprises, which does present real challenges to scaling things in a production environment. The folks that are doing it well and getting it right, again, have chief AI officers, and certainly the big tech companies do, but as you look at some of these other industry, banking, financial services, telecom, media, telco, manufacturing, retail, et cetera, I think there's a battle for who owns AI. You've got the business that's out there trying to deliver their own AI solutions or push their own AI use cases. You've got IT trying to do it as well. And so all that combined really creates this logjam and this bottleneck that makes it much harder to get things into production. And then lastly, I would again say, and I've mentioned this several times, but I think it's important, and it's one of the reasons that prevents more success out there in the marketplace from an AI perspective, is just that lack of overall governance. Again, without that standardization, with that, when you've got all these point solutions that are being implemented, and not on a kind of standardized, centralized type of platform, it gets really hard to manage. It gets really hard to get things into production, and it makes it even harder long term to maintain. So those are some of the key things that I think that I've seen from clients here recently, probably within the last 6 months or so.
We have talked about standardization. What are some of the biggest challenges you see when it comes to this fragmentation, which can also hurt organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the biggest trends that we're seeing right now, or one of the most common challenges that we're helping clients work through and face as well. And it really comes down to what I said earlier. There's a lot of point solutions out there. There's a lot of more platform-based or platform-centric technologies, the big players in the market, and everybody wants you to run your AI through their platform. They want you to build all of your agents on their platform. They want you to run all your data through their platform. And so and a lot of these organizations don't necessarily want to centralize on one single platform from an AI perspective that doesn't necessarily focus on AI. You can't run all your AI through your ERP platform. You can't run all your AI through your HRIS platform, et cetera. So we've seen a trend where folks are building more of this is kind of almost back to the build versus buy days that we used to have. So we've seen a lot of folks take the build path, and they're building their own centralized platforms, and we've kind of dubbed it, chat to enterprise. And so we've helped a couple of clients actually do this, where we've built a centralized platform using open source technologies, and then integrate with over 20, 30 different enterprise systems in one chat kind of interface and interact with all of those different systems from an AI perspective. So you're going to one central interface in a typical chat type fashion, and you can basically do anything you want from an AI point of view, but you're getting all of your data from your ERP, your CRM, your HRIS, your ITSM systems, as well as all of your other proprietary, custom data lake houses, et cetera. So, that's what I'm seeing out in the market. There's certainly a group that I think would lean towards more of their, if they're centralized on one core platform within their organization, then I think they're choosing to try to build within that platform. But I see far more companies and leaders choosing to kind of build their own because they can do it faster and better and cheaper and have more control over it.
You work with a lot of organizations and almost everybody is excited about AI, but they're also making a lot of mistakes. If a C-level executive walks up to you, what would be your advice when they are evaluating their AI strategy? What they should stop doing and what they should start doing right now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and we do talk with our clients about this very frequently. In terms of, we help a lot of organizations with their AI strategy, and really how should they be thinking about AI moving into the future. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I think it starts with that top down mandate, really focusing on core business functions, core or high ROI workflows that are going to really return value. Everybody, I mean, all the stories that you read and all the press that you see right now is about demanding, more ROI. When are we going to see the returns on AI, right? Everybody's invested millions and billions of dollars within AI, and yet they're still struggling to get the returns that people are expecting. So you've got to be able to focus on those core strategic workflows. And the second thing I would say is again, when we talked earlier about the AI divide and the folks that are doing this well, the ones that are doing it well are the ones that are doing it everywhere. They're baking AI into all of their workflows, into all of their processes. And so they're clearly leapfrogging some of the others and widening that gap. So, those are a couple elements from a strategic perspective that I would say in terms of, as you think about the strategy that you want to deploy, is focus on those high value, workflows. Second, I would say, have a well-defined, well-governed, infrastructure and platform strategy. I see way too many clients that we've worked with that has built multiple AI solutions with completely different tech stacks, completely different platforms. And that just makes it exponentially harder to then again operationalize AI throughout your enterprise and manage it and govern it in a well-structured manner. So those would be the pieces of advice that I would talk to the C-suite about, as we start that conversation.
What's next for Marlabs? Where are you taking agility AI next, and what should enterprises be watching for as you help them navigate their AI challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where Marlabs is going is really a focus on agentic AI. Everything that we do right now is geared at investing in agentic AI. That's where I would see the future of AI going. There's obviously the release of some of these newer platforms that are coming out that are making it easier to create agents and manage those agents. So everything that we're doing is, as I mentioned earlier, in putting that kind of industry slant on those agents as well, and focusing on kind of these key experiences from a customer perspective is where we want to focus. So a lot of that is again geared at just making sure that everything that we do is really focused on, how do we leverage and how do we maximize the value out of our agents. And again, I mean, it has the opportunity to cannibalize, revenue from a services company like ours. So we have to make sure that the way in which we deliver value is accelerated, so we can do more with less, and thereby still increasing our revenue share and our growth. So that's the strategy that we're taking is to really focus on being able to provide a ton of value very quickly, do more with less, but do it for more people and do it in a much quicker fashion.
We are hearing a lot about specialized agent versus general purpose AI like cloud or other large models. Are you seeing that companies are investing heavily in general purpose AI, thinking it will solve a lot of their problems? Or are you seeing more movement towards specialized agents? Because this can be a big investment. At the same time, it can also be a reason for the failures that we have been talking about.
I think we see a little bit of both, especially from the more mature enterprises that are out there, at least mature within the AI space. There's certainly great use cases for the more generalized agents or a generalized agent approach, but the specialized or the specialization agents, I think, are really going to become more of a common practice moving forward. I think the ability of these agents are only they're exponentially increase in the next 12 months. So it's going to mean that you can do far, far more with an agent than what you could imagine right now today. So I think that specialized agent is really going to be one of the key evolutions here in the next 12 to 18 months.
Scott, thank you for joining me and sharing these insights. It's clear that getting AI from pilots to production requires industrializing the process and closing the gap between data science and business operations. Thank you for great insights, and I look forward to chat with you again. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Schwab. No, appreciate you having me on.
And for those watching, if you're facing similar challenges with your AI strategy, make sure to check out Marlabs and its solutions. And don't forget to subscribe to TFIR, like this video, and share it with your team. Thanks for watching.